Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are the Golf Lovers United podcast, and I am Ben, Golf Love UK, and I am back with Pro Golf Critic. Pro Golf Critic was unable to play with me in Red Harrington last week, but we've got him back. How are you, mate?
Yeah, doing well. I think it's one of the things that's been pretty clear to me is that there's so much going on. We could honestly do a podcast like every single day. So I mean, we just have to be a little bit more strategic. Sometimes you get a little busier than other times, and it's part of the reason why we're continuing to add new resources that could kind of step in and take up some of the slack. So, all good.
Well, I could do one every day. I think the wife would be very angry, and you and I having to do edits and post them, but there we are. Right, shall we talk about some golf? Go on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we just finished a great tournament at LIV Hong Kong. I think I've been lauding Hong Kong Golf Club on social media for a while. It's really one of the crown jewels of not only Asian golf, but just global golf in general. Yeah, just because it's such a classic design that really stands up even now. Yes, it played a little bit easier because of the softer conditions. I mean, at a course of 6,600, 6,700 yards, it's just the ultimate test. It really is sort of the diversity of leaderboard. It shows just, what players are playing well, what players are kind of have the mental game dialed, which I think is something that's a really, really underreported thing in professional golf. And I think this course has it when a lot of other courses don't.
Can't disagree. I think we discussed it. Actually, I'll tell you an interesting activity you and I could do with Red in the next podcast or two is to put together our top 10 not played courses, or maybe just top 5 not played courses. What 5 do you really want to play that you've never played? And I think actually for both of us, we'd have Hong Kong in there without yeah. So we won't spoil it anymore, but for both of us, Hong Kong's going to be in there. So let's not say any more about that. Otherwise we're going to typical you and I will do the segment now.
Yeah, I know. No, the interesting thing about Hong Kong Golf Club that people don't know is that it's actually 54 holes, and they use like a composite course of their new course and their Eden course, which is named similarly after St. Andrews. I think they use 10 holes on the new and then 8 on the Eden course. I might have that flipped, but really interesting to see how large of a complex this is. They have a really, really great membership, highly engaged membership. Don Boulay, our guy Don Boulay, has obviously been a member there for 40 years.
I love Don Boulay. I love Dom so much. I know some of the LIV guys listen to this, and if Dom is listening, I know he's listened to the past. And if Dom's got to stop saying that's going to be a great shot or this is going to happen. Because if Dom says good stuff, I'm now calling you you've been dommed. Because the amount of times Dom says this is going to be a great one when he hits it, and then it'll just randomly hit like an old spike and bounce right 15 yards. Players are getting dommed all the time. Have you noticed this? That Dom has got the commentator's curse like no one I've ever met. When Dom said Phil's rounding into form for the Masters and Sergio's looking good for the Masters, I'm like, well, that's it. They won't make the cut. As soon as Dom says that, I'm like, oh, that's it. You've been.
But I will say, there is some truth to that, but I will say he also has just a great amount of insights on this particular course, just in terms of predicting what's going to happen, spots to be in, spots where you absolutely don't want to be in. Don Boulay, shout out Don Boulay, is one of my favorite people in professional golf. Yeah, he's just such a...
He's so nice.
He's nice. He's knowledgeable.
So nice, yeah.
I mean, he has been... There's like a handful of folks in the LIV universe that have just been welcomed me with open arms. He's top of the list. Just a really great guy. Just like such an encyclopedia of global golf knowledge and knowledge about the Asian tour and sort of that part of the world that like I've been able to tap into. So yeah, shout out Don Boulay.
I remember at LIV last year. I'm not sure you were off doing something in when we were at JCB, and I had to be on the first tee for some sort of activation thing. I can't remember exactly what it was. I was just walking down to the first tee, like, Ben, where are you going? And I said, I got here. He said, I'm going there as well. So he just jumped in his buggy, and like he's just such a nice guy. Anyway, this is not a loving for Dom because I need to get angry.
Usually I'm the one that's angry, so go ahead.
Well, you are. You're like always angry, whereas I'm happy and then angry. I'm more bipolar than you.
I'm actually in a great mood today, so plug it.
Do you know what's really starting to piss me off? If you don't like LIV, that's fine. I don't mind if you don't like LIV. People think I don't like the PGA Tour. I've watched every PGA Tour event this season. Like, have I watched from beginning to end? No, I don't have 12 hours in a day. but I've watched sort of 3-4 hours of every PGA Tour event, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I love golf. I watch it. So anyone wants to come at me and say, "Oh, you don't like golf," that's nonsense. But you don't have to like LIV. But if you are such an imbecile, you want to die on the hill of Dean Burmester isn't a top 25 player in the world, I'm sorry, I've got no time for you and your golf opinion. Dean Burmester is without doubt top 25 golf player in the world. Without a doubt. The guy is so good. Yes. He's so consistent. He's been incredible on LIV for the last year and a half. Like, he's just been absolutely amazing. So far this season, let's have a quick look, just so I'm not blowing nonsense down the mic. Tied 4th, tied 12th, solo 2nd. Dean Burmester is 3rd overall. Dean, for me, is one of the top 25 golfers in the world. John Conrad's rankings has got him at like 21. After this weekend, TUGR, who I'm not a massive fan of their rankings, but they'll have him like top 35. Data Golf, which I'm not a massive fan of, they've got him much higher. In OWGR, it's like 160. I understand why people have
137.
137. People have their opinion of OWGR and rankings, and that's fine. Have your opinion. But to pretend that Dean Burmester isn't a top 25 player in the world is frankly ludicrous.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, shout out Clean Dean. I think that he's been so underrated.
Another nice guy. The time he gave us at LIV when we were, mate, another nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I still haven't clarified for him his nickname. I still think Clean Dean fits. Not about cleanliness of, around the house. It's more about cleanliness of game. So, I think I love Dean Burmester's game. Like, he's long off the tee, fairly straight, solid iron player. Like, kind of underrated short game too. Like, I think his putting has always been kind of things held him back a little bit. But I think that he's, I think as he's ascended. Because he's 3rd in the LIV standings this year. He's been really consistent. I think he's probably going to get in a couple majors this year. If I had to guess, he's not in the Masters, even though he 100% should be. There's no question about that in my mind. I think he'd play Augusta really well. It's kind of a story for another day. No, but I mean, he's proven not only on LIV but in European Tour, Asian Tour events, like, he's been really, really solid. And I think that as he sort of elevates inside of LIV, I think more and more people are starting to take note. Even some of the LIV haters out there that I kind of talk to on social media here and there, they will even admit that Dean Burmester is one that they always kind of have an eye on whenever he gets into a major or any sort of LIV event, non-LIV event. Actually, shout out my brother. He just bet Dean Burmester in a matchup round 2 and he won it. So yeah, Dean Burmester is just a great player. I think that he is sort of the de facto leader of the Stingers. Like, I think he's their cornerstone at this point, even more so than Louis and Charles Schwartzel, and obviously Brendan Grace has been struggling, even though we've seen signs of life from Brendan Grace, which is good to see too.
Yeah, so that's my rant over regarding Dean, but I'm just going to say not something I can really get on board with.
We can't listen to these clowns on social media that are LIV haters. Like, I've been saying it for a while. Like, we can't let them impact. They're going to get in line eventually, like, when everything sort of starts playing out over the next few years, which there's a lot to come. Trust me. If everybody thinks that the last 3 years in professional golf have been really, really interesting, the next 3 years are probably going to trump it. So, just have to wait and see. Trust me on that, or don't trust me. It doesn't matter. I know it's going to be a lot happening.
Talk more about the event that's just been. We talked a little about Hong Kong as a course. I want to start with a winner, but I can't. I got to start with your mate and my mate, Phil Mickelson. Wasn't it good to see him playing great?
It's impressive. Really super impressive stuff from Phil. And he's been talking about it for a while. One of the things that he said really consistently in the press conferences this past week was he had to really go back in the lab and sort of figure out a different way to play, a different way to win, because the old style that he had, where he was one of the longest players out there and like could really sort of overpower golf courses like that, not really the case anymore, because like, I wouldn't say he's gotten necessarily shorter off the tee. I just think that some of the longer guys have gotten so much longer, like Bryson and Matt Wolff and Dean Burmester and even Waco, like these guys that are like mid 180s to 190 ball speed, like those guys are like really pushing the envelope. Like he's more in that sort of low to mid 170s. Like when he really gets a hold of one, he's like kind of upper 170s, which is still really, really good, especially for 54 years old. Except he knew he had to dial in a few things in the offseason. He's really cleaned up his short game. He's got the Tiger Slayer back in the bag because he says it just sort of activates something. He's such a feel player. People have always criticized him for using that putter, except when you're a feel player the way he is, you need to really take advantage of that. And when he's playing well, chances are he's using that putter. So I totally understand that. I would kind of like to see maybe he experiments with 2 putters in the bag. I know that's a little bit like kind of a little bit outside the box, but that's who Phil Mickelson is. Like he's always thought outside the box, whether it's having 2 drivers in the bag, 2 putters in the bag, 5 wedges. Like there's a lot of things that he can do. And I think that he's really unlocked something, not only him, but his team. They spent a lot of time this offseason just sort of improving the things that they needed to improve. I think Phil's got a new strategy. He's got a new outlook. And let's face it, like the last 3 years, Phil has had like the weight of the world on his shoulders. And I feel like that weight is like kind of it's been lifted off a little bit, which I think is really, really important. And I think that's when we're going to start seeing more of his best golf. And Hong Kong was certainly one of those days, like, 64 in the final round, which is just an incredible round of golf. Solo third place is his best finish on LIV. High Flyers tied third, which as quiet as it's kept, High Flyers should have won this event. They had some really great chances down the stretch between Camo Tringali and Andy Ogletree. They missed some short putts. They really did. They missed some short putts, especially on their last hole, which is the third hole, the par 5. They were both in really good position off the tee to make birdie, and they both made par.
Camo missed, I'm going to say he missed 2 within 6 foot in 4 holes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ben, look, that was tough. Fantastic finish by them. Well done to High Flyers. We're talking a minute about overall standings, but from this event as well, little shout out for a few players that have found a little bit of form. Max Lee, it's
great to see.
What a day out for him. Like obviously, came on as the wild card, and he's playing for his place to stay on LIV, to be in LIV, and not being on a team means he's probably going to have to be in the top 24 unless there's an expansion team and someone wants to pick him up if he's in that sort of open zone. Yeah, he's 32nd at the moment, but yeah, tied 12th today. I thought was a fantastic result for him. Good to see GMAC back. GMAC with a little bit. He had a okay event out in Riyadh. Struggled in Adelaide, but came back with a tied 12th now. Harold Varner, he's been much better this year. And then there were some players today in this last week that actually showed, for me, a lot of grit from where they were to what they did. So Cam Smith started poorly this week. Yep. They didn't start poorly, but didn't start great, but had a really, really got into it the last 2 days, finishing tied 20th.
Slow start. It was a slow start.
Louis Tayson started slow himself, started really slow, but then ended up being tied 20th with -5 under, 3 under the last 2 rounds. And I think obviously there's a few results in there that just maybe are surprising. No one's surprised that Richard Bland just put in some more half-decent results. He's just so consistent.
Yeah.
Bubba
he didn't
again.
do as well as I thought he was going to do on this course. I'll be honest. That first day kind of struggled a little bit. Yeah.
Bubba again, 6 under, tied 30th. That's his worst performance for the year. Shows how good Bubba's playing. Caleb Surratt with maybe the most roller coaster 3 days ever. +5, -8, -1. Unbelievable.
75-62. 75-62 is wild.
Yeah, you've been Jang with a even Jang with a 67-77. That's a rare matchup. And then with a 67 again, like 4 under, 5 over, 4 under. So just goes to show that's a course, Jay, that if you're not quite the right side of things, it can get wrong quick.
Yes. The big thing about Hong Kong Golf Club that I tell people is that it's really a momentum course. I mean, it is kind of like Augusta in that way, in that you have to avoid the big mistake to continue your momentum, because there are birdies out there. Everybody's going to be making birdies because there's shorter par 5s, there's shorter par 4s. You're going to have a lot of wedges in your hand for sure. And that was part of the reason why Phil played so well this past week because he started to eliminate the mistakes. He said his final round, his goal, no bogeys, 7 birdies. He made the 7 birdies. He only made 1 bogey, and shot 64. So it's like the main thing, you've got to continue your momentum because you can get on the other side of the bad momentum. That's kind of what happened to Yubin Zhang, kind of what happened to Bryson's final round. He made like maybe 3 or 4 bogeys in his last 5 holes because it just started compounding, started getting in his own head, and all of a sudden he went from being, cracking the top 5 to finishing tied 20th, I think. So, yeah, definitely a momentum course for sure.
And a real gritty round. I'm not sure what's happened to DJ. He seems to be a guy who's still really fighting. Like, he's not obviously giving up. I'm not sure what's happening in the game. Who knows? But like, to have 2 dreadful rounds, come out today with a 6 under and really fight back. It shows a lot of grit, and it's good to see.
Yeah.
A couple of concerns in there for me in the last, so far, we're 3 events in. We did say we were going to wait till 4 events in to really sort of lay the hammer down. But Freddie Ketchup looks to be all at sea. Like, his best finish is a tied 33rd, 53rd, and a tied 42nd. AK is still scratching, struggling for form. He was obviously injured. And as he come back too soon, you've got to do what you've got to do. And I think AK is one of those who doesn't want to make excuses and just wants to get on with it. Sometimes it's not an excuse. If you're injured, rest up, get better, come back. But and then I look at people like Taylor Gooch, and I look at Matt Jones, DJ we mentioned. There's a few players there that really had that are much bigger names. Taylor Gooch is a bigger name. Freddie Ketcher was meant to be the new hot star for the cliques. You could argue he's really dragging the cliques down massively on their performances because they're actually doing quite well. Maronk's played well. Imer's played solid. Andy's played solid. And the cliques currently are kind of nowhere to be seen. And that's really because of Freddie Ketchup.
Yeah. I got to shout out one player. Really quickly just because, and it sort of ties into the point you're making. And someone we have been very critical of fairly recently is Mito Pereira. There's been signs of life from Mito Pereira. He finished tied 20th. I mean, he kind of teetered a little bit because he was right there in the top 10. He kind of fell off a little bit towards the end of the final round, so he kind of flipped, a couple spots.
Dropped back.
But I mean, he had a dreadful start of the season. Like, I think his best finish was like 46th. And for him to get into the points finally after a while, I think that's a really good sign for Tony.
He actually dropped back 2 shots, which cost him 6 places. So he's currently ranked second. Where would he have been? He would have been ranked 30 seconds. He'd have been sort of 10 spots higher.
Yeah.
I tell you what, did you have in your bingo card Tyrrell Hatton being 10 places lower in the overall standings than Tom McKibben?
Definitely not. However,
Tom McKibben
we all knew Tom McKibben. No, he's a great. That was one of the really interesting things about the results in Hong Kong was even though there was a variety of players inside the top 10, one thing that you didn't see a ton of in the top 10 was a ton of youth and inexperience. And he was basically the only one. He's one of the youngest players in the league. And he finished tied 6th. Like, on a course like this, that is a great sign. Like, he's adjusted to life on LIV so quickly. I think he loves being part of Legion 13. I think it's given him a lot of energy. It's given him just like a sense of being on a team with John Rahm and Tyrrell Hatton. It just gives you, and Caleb Surratt too. I don't want to sort of undercut Caleb because I think having 2 younger players and sort of 2 older players to sort of look up to. And Caleb Surratt is a very, very mature 20. I think he's 21, or he might still be 20 actually. So I think that team has a lot of chemistry. I think that he's fit in right away. I think that he's going to continue to have good results. Like I've already said, I think he's a lock for the lock zone. I think he's going to continue playing well this year because he's already proven he could play a variety of different courses. I think I do want to see him on Sentosa next week, and I want to see him play Trump Doral as well, because I think there's just those 2 courses ask slightly different questions than what we've seen so far. So I'd like to see sort of how he responds to that.
And then lastly, I just touch on the team performance overall. Ironheads and Smash haven't got a single team point. Now, if anyone is not sure how the team points works, that means not one occasion have they finished 8th or above to not have a single point. We're 3 events in, they haven't had a single
bad sign
8th or above finish. And it's really, really bad. for them, and they've got to try and find something.
I mean, look, Ironheads have had injury. Kazuma's he's been out the first three events, so they've had to sort of cycle in. Wade Ormsby, Ollie Schneiderjans.
Yeah, but in all fairness, event one, Wade Ormsby played really well. He didn't play great in Adelaide, but Wade played really well in event one. So the missing of him there didn't really cause it's.
No, I just think chemistry-wise,
Danny Lee blows hot and cold, and
yeah. I think chemistry-wise, like I think that. I mean, I say this all the time. Golf is such a mental game that, like, just these little things, like, you know, you're used to sort of traveling, doing all these things as a team, as a foursome. Then when someone's not there, it's like there's this thing missing, and then it can sort of bleed into your golf game. I'm not making any excuses for the Ironheads, trust me, but it's something people need to sort of think about, that's a, you know, possibility. And I just think I want to give some of these teams a little bit of grace, a little bit of time to adjust to a new season, but Smash, I mean, we got to see something from Smash, guys. It's getting to a point where, you know, the way Taylor Gooch is playing and the way Brooks is playing, like, I mean, look, even last year, Brooks, he didn't really play Hong Kong that well. It doesn't really fit his game entirely. I think, obviously, Sentosa fits his game. He won there last year. I think he really likes that course. He likes that grass. That sort of Kikuyu, Pass Pound, like, I think he's going to, Zoysia, yeah, it's all kind of the same. But it's more of like a spongy grass that he's always played really, really well. He's won a bunch of tournaments on it, whether it be major championships or PGA events. He's played that grass really well. So I'm reserving judgment on Brooks until we get through the next couple of events. Taylor Gooch, like, we just went through a string of events that I thought he was going to play well. Like, there were courses that sort of suit his game. Like, he won Adelaide 2 years ago. So, I mean, that obviously suits his game, and he's just not playing well. So, I mean, like I said, I'm not going to sound the alarm too much until we get a little deeper into the season, but there's a couple of things people need to keep an eye on for sure.
I want to flick real quickly to Bay Hill. I love Bay Hill. I love it. I think it's a fantastic event.
Me too.
Fantastic tournament. It's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I'm not enjoying.
The event's not as good as it used to be, though.
No, but very few things in life are. Well, you and I, Jay, you and I are at an age now where not much is as good as it used to be. We're turning into those men.
But the thing is, it could be so much better. That's the thing. We all know that these things could be better.
Let's ignore that. I don't like the changes to 18. I don't like getting rid of the bunker at the front.
Oh, you mean 17? Par 3.
17.
Yeah.
17.
Yeah, I mean, I have mixed emotions about it for sure. I think that anytime you can make a hole or a course a little tougher, it's generally a good thing. And it seems like 17 is playing a little tougher. Like, I will say that bunker bailed out a lot of players over the course of time. Like, I mean, instead of balls going in the water,
it's not that. It was iconic of its look, and now it's that.
I agree. However, it remains to be seen. Like, look, they can make changes to these things like that, especially on this course. And they could very well put the bunker back in there. I think they want to see how it plays this year. Like, they are notorious for sort of tweaking this course and making little changes just to make it more interesting, make it a tougher test. Because look, this is a proper, the course architects snobs are always taking shots at Bay Hill, but it's like, look, if we want to test some of the top players in the world, like, you have to make some of these courses tougher. And two of the easiest ways that you could do to make these courses tougher, really three things: narrow the fairways, have deeper rough, and have firmer greens. Like, that's what Bay Hill does. That's the skill set on this course. And there's a reason why Tiger has won here 8 times. Well, technically 9 if you count one of his amateur events. Like, yeah, like, it identifies the best ball strikers that weekend. Just does. Scotty Scheffler, Terrell Hatton, like, all those guys.
He used a really interesting phrase there: the best golfers in the world. So, like, I'm really enjoying watching Bay Hill, and Colin Morikawa looks to be really kind of getting some form back. And I love Colin, great striker. He's such a streaky putter. He's either putting great or he's not. We see these things a lot of players. But interestingly, I'm just going to go through some of the cut list for the for Bay Hill.
Saw it.
Dietrich, Hovland, Thigala, Homer, the new star, Hot Tiger, Billy Horschel, Cam Young.
I got her one of the worst tee shots I've ever seen too, on 6-hole. Like, oh my god, not worse than
my 13th when we played with you, me, and Jerry Foltz. When I hit it when I hit it 16 yards. Tom Kim. So there's some really big names in there, and what's happening in, like, Xander's not had a great weekend. He's 3 under today, which got him to 41st. But there's a lot of players. I'm not saying there's a new breed of golfers. It just seems to me there's a lot of inconsistency around both LIV and the PGA Tour. There's a lot of players that are up and down. And Oberg today, if it wasn't for a really good 4-under today, Oberg would have been languishing down the bottom of that leaderboard. And there's a lot of names up in that top.
Not surprised.
Not a lot of names in the top, let's say, top 15 that maybe you wouldn't expect to see in the top 15 normally. So you've got Keegan Bradley. He's not a top 15 player maybe on the PGA Tour, although he's played quite well. Corey Connors, Michael Kim, Sepp Straka, Daniel Bergers, Boan, Justin Rose is a good player, but he hasn't necessarily been up there all the time recently. Bridgman, McCarthy. There's a lot of other names. And you're seeing a little bit of that on LIV. This week's been a bit different, but is there something happening in world golf at the minute that more though than I've seen ever before, and I don't think it's a LIV split, PGA Tour split thing. I'm wondering, and I was listening to this guy who's talking about injuries, and how many players they think are now playing a bit injured through everyone's absolute demand for speed and searching for speed. Are we living in a world where actually a lot of the top golfers in the world are carrying a few injuries, like maybe they didn't before? The list I've named you of people who didn't make the cut. If I'd said to you 18 months ago on the PGA Tour that Hovland, Thigala, Horace English, Max Homer, actually Batia's more recently been playing well, Billy Horschel, Cam Young, Tom Kim, were all going to miss the cut, you'd have gone, well, they must have had dreadful weather, or do they get the worst of the weather draw? Like, you know what I mean? And the same's happening in LIV. You look at LIV and we've said you've got Gooch and you've got Brooks and a few others haven't been playing as well. It seems to me not a LIV thing or a PGA Tour thing before anyone jumps down my throat because they're a moron. It just seems to me a bigger global thing that there seems to be much more inconsistency in performance.
Yeah, I think there's ebbs and flows to everyone's golf game. Obviously, I think Hovland is a perfect example of that. That being said, I think that there's a few things going on that have negatively impacted players' games. I think all this uncertainty just in the professional golf world is not helping a lot of guys. I think also a lot of these guys that turn down huge LIV offers that might not ever see that money again. I think those are things that like stick in their mind. So it's like you had this opportunity to make guaranteed money, and now you're in a position where you continue playing on the PGA Tour. You're not really guaranteeing anything. So, and in order for you to maintain your standing, in order to get into the big money events, you got to play. And sometimes you got to play injured, and sometimes you got to play when you're sick. You got to do all this stuff that like if you were playing less on another tour where you already had the security of guaranteed money, which is what I've been saying for 3 years, and anybody that didn't take it's a moron. Don't get me started on that. I think that is lingering in a lot of these players' heads. I think that on top of the fact that some of these guys also have new obligations, they're playing TGL, they're doing all these things that they're not used to doing. And I think TGL has negatively impacted some players. I think if you look at the guys that missed the cut at Bay Hill, I think a lot of those guys are TGL players. And conversely, some of the people on TGL are playing really well. I mean, look at Colin Morikawa. I mean, he's leading the event. So, I mean, there's...
Oberg's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's been okay. I think he's...
You just can't bring yourself to say anything good about him. I'll say he's been really good.
I think he's fine. He's just... the thing that I don't like about Ludwig is that anytime he does anything good, people just run with it and make him out to be the next coming.
That's different. That's the media going crazy about things. You know that they did.
Not just the media though.
Mate,
it's the fans. It's all these PGA Tour stands that are in my mentions every day.
They get hyped.
Yeah, they get really hyped up.
Like they do with Minwoo Lee. Like they're all over the chef. Let him cook. Let him cook. And I think Minwoo Lee's a great player. But is he cooked? Like
Minwoo Lee is not a great player. He's not a great player. Let me stop you. I think he's a good player that has potential. I don't think he's shown any of that potential on the PGA Tour just yet.
But that's the thing. They get hyped up. But anyway, I think we're agreeing. There are some really bizarre or more inconsistent results. What's the reason? We're not quite sure. Now, before we go into any more on that, we've only got 10, 15 minutes left. We had a long conversation the other day, didn't we? We had a long conversation the other day about the deal. I know you and I are both of the opinion that the deal happens sooner. It doesn't happen for a while. Do you want to share why you feel that?
Sure. So this is one of the things that I went into detail on in our Twitter Spaces that we had last week. We talked about this for like 90 minutes, so I'm not gonna repeat everything that I said there. I think that this the deal was very close to happening. As I said, I think that all of the material stakeholders were in place to make this thing happen over the past couple of weeks. You always had Yasser and the PIF here in the United States, visiting the White House, visiting Donald Trump, President Trump. You had all of the material folks at the PGA Tour, Jay Monahan, Tiger, Adam Scott, all the people on these subcommittees sort of in place to help push this thing through. Rory, Cantlay, whoever else. I just think that it was kind of now or never. Like, this is like, I think that the PGA Tour has been such a disorganized disaster when it comes to this. Like, they can't get everybody on the same page. And I think that is the thing that is kicking this can down the road, because it's been made very clear to me and like anybody else sort of paying attention to it, even the corrupt golf media, that like there are certain factions of the PGA Tour that basically say the only way that this deal gets done is if Yasser basically kills LIV or folds it into the PGA Tour. And I've been on this block for 3 years. That's not going to happen. It's never going to happen, for a variety of reasons. And I'll give you two really important reasons and then kind of leave it at that. One, I think when you've invested the amount of money that Saudi, PIF, and Yasser have in LIV, and you have a 10, 20-year game plan on this, you're not just going to abandon that for a organization that, let's be honest, they're kind of a JV organization in the grand scheme of sort of global business and economics and sport. Yeah, they're just not at the level of a lot of these other leagues. You're not just going to abandon that to only invest more money in the PGA Tour.
Someone made a comment the other day and I nearly vomited. They said, there's very little difference between the PGA Tour and the Shield. For those that don't know, the Shield is what people refer to as the NFL as. It's the Shield. I'm like, what? Sorry?
Might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I'm like, you can't be serious. You can't be serious.
Look, the PGA Tour is such a disorganized disaster. Jay Monahan's going to get up and do a State of the Union thing of the players next week. I know what he's going to say. It's going to be everything is great. But just know, I know this for a fact. I've heard from people within the PGA Tour about this. They've had layoffs very recently in their entertainment, their digital divisions, their media division, photographers, like all that stuff. Yet, Monahan and some of these executives are making a record amount of money. And I want everybody to just let that sink in for a minute. Not only that, but they spent tens of millions on this PGA Tour Studios thing. And like you're also hemorrhaging money, sending it over to the European Tour to sort of secure those purses. And then SSG comes in and is investing $1.5 billion. And like, what the hell are we getting out of this? Like, we invested this thinking the PIF was also going to invest and we could sort of supercharge this thing. And that hasn't happened. And PIF knows this. Like, I promise you, like, this is all part of the game. I want to make this abundantly clear that one of the reasons why PIF wants to do this investment in the PGA Tour or enterprises is to continue knocking down barriers, opening up doors to LIV, so that investment that they've put into LIV can sort of supercharge and sort of earn more equity and sort of continue building over the next few years so that they can continue to build value of these franchises, because that's what this whole franchise model has been about. So that's the thing people need to keep in mind.
And the other thing people need to keep in mind, that it's not a political statement about whether I support Trump or don't support Trump, whether I'm a Republican or a Democrat. I don't even like my own government and my own opposition over here, so let alone American. But if you look at global affairs, people say, oh, Donald Trump, he was only cross about Doral and now he's okay with it. If you take Donald Trump and what he's saying, again, people are going to shout at me for saying that. I'm just put your Trump hatred or Trump love to one side and just listen for a second. If Trump wants peace in the Middle East, he has made it clear that a large part of that is having the nations in the Middle East on his side. The one nation in the Middle East that pulls the most power with money at the moment is Saudi Arabia. He is not going to jeopardize that relationship with Saudi Arabia for Middle East peace to make Jay Monahan happy. Are people understanding this? If on the table Trump's thinking, hey, I need to keep Saudi Arabia happy, working with me as an ally because they're investing $600 billion, rising to $1 trillion over the next 3 years into the American economy. That's great. That's one thing. So is he going to jeopardize what he believes is Middle East peace and $1 trillion investment into the American government because Jay Monahan wants a different golf tour? Like, just think about it. So when people are saying, "Oh, Trump's on their side, Trump's on their side," I again, put your Trump hatred or Trump love to one side. I'm not picking sides in this. I'm just talking about the logic of how it works. Why would Trump, if that's what he wants to do, risk annoying Saudi Arabia, who he appears to have got a good relationship with?
It's a great relationship.
Well, yeah, great relationship. Him and Yasser sat next to each other at the UFC. Like,
not only that.
I'm just talking before he won the presidency. Okay. He was at the UFC before he became president. He was at the UFC after he'd won it, sat next to Yasser at a social event, so to speak. I'm not even talking about an official event where Yasser has been in the White House. What I'm trying to say is that this isn't bigger than golf. So if you honestly think that Trump is going to make a decision that could jeopardize what he believes is a peace deal and what he believes is a $1 trillion investment, because he wants to keep Jay Monahan happy and get an event back at Doral, I think we're talking at cross purposes here. This isn't a pro-Trump thing, an anti-Trump thing, a pro-Saudi thing, so it's none of that. I'm just saying on the grand scheme of how things work, there's a scale in life, isn't there, Jay? And if the scale's doing this, you've got to make a decision on what you want to do. And I just think that the world's a much bigger place than getting a tournament back at Doral.
100%. Like that. It's one of the silliest things I've ever heard. And one of the things that I've been pointing out to people is that, and this is an important thing people need to keep in mind. When Trump was sort of down and out right after January 6th here in the United States, when the PGA of America stripped the Trump Bedminster of the PGA Championship that was supposed to be the next year. And obviously this is on the heels of the PGA Tour taking Trump's tournament away from Doral and bringing it to Mexico. And the RNA saying they're not going back to Turnberry. Shout out Turnberry that I know we're going to get to. But there are certain factions, certain folks that supported Trump when he was at his lowest. And I think that Saudi, Yasser, and the PIF by proxy, they were there in a way for Trump and the Trump family when a lot of other people weren't. And I think that that's something loyalty is very, very important in the Trump family. Probably maybe even more important than money. Loyalty is a really, really important thing. Going back and sort of listening to a bunch of Donald Trump interviews going back to the 80s and 90s. This is something that's really, really important to him. So again, I think that
we're not a pro-Trump or non-pro Trump podcast. We're just saying this is just
it's just reality.
There's a bigger thing to look at here.
It's just reality. There's certain.
I am wearing my Trump Turnberry top. Trump Turnberry top for a very, very sad reason.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I want to hit this one point really quick, then we can move on.
Finish with me being angry. Started with it, we'll finish with
it. No, it's fair. So, like, there's a lot of things happening in global economics and sort of everything, just the way things are trending. There's a reason why PIF is investing so much money in golf and in global sport. And they're disrupting the status quo in a lot of different sports. They are bringing more stuff to Asia and sort of APAC. LIV Golf is a really, really important part of that. Asia and sort of APAC is now a huge, huge driver of global economics and global GDP. Like, it wasn't always the case. 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. Now, it's like the economy of Asia is basically twice as big as the United States. That wasn't the case, not that long ago. Like, this is all changing, and everyone, that controls a lot of the sort of power dynamics and sort of global economics and business and all that stuff. They know this stuff, especially when it comes to institutional capital that I've been talking about, sort of investing it in these things that have the potential to return results, not this year, not next year, which is what the PGA Tour is all about the next 1 to 2 years. They can't see. They don't know their ass from their elbow. They can't see more than 2 steps in the future. A lot of these institutional capital, folks, they're looking 10, 20, 30 years into the future, even longer than that. And that's the reason why LIV is going to be around. That's the reason why PIF has invested so much in LIV, not only to sort of for these assets to continue to increase in value, except they're also to disrupt the existing status quo and sort of shifting the power dynamics from where things have been mostly centered in the United States to making things more global. If you listen to everyone that's a huge investor in sports, whether it be SSG, PIF, Rain Group, whoever, they all say the same stuff. Yeah, things are going more global. The NFL is playing more games globally. Like, this is not a coincidence. It's really not a coincidence, and people need to think about that as we move forward.
It seems such a weird thing that we're discussing it in all this way that we're discussing it, but there we are. I don't want to get into politics on Israel and Gaza. For God's sake, what are we doing? I'm just going to say I feel really sorry for the greenskeepers at Turnberry who turned up to work yesterday and had hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of damage done to their course, and now they got to repair it. It's not
tough.
If your protest is against Donald Trump, then maybe do it in a way that it's not people who have nothing to do with him, like his greenkeepers who've got to repair the work. It's just like it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change anything. I just feel really sorry for the people who've got to do that. I understand people's right to protest. I've never been against the right to protest. I've been on 2 protests in London. I've been on them before. I think it's really important that you do that both times as a younger man and one of my mid-20s for things that you believe in. I think it's really important. I think everyone's right to protest is there, but maybe vandalising something that someone's got to clean up and tidy up isn't maybe the best way to go about it. I don't think we need to say too much more on it, but I just really feel for those people.
Not the way to go. Yeah, I completely it's just not. And this is someone speaking as someone that's very.
Go and campaign outside the US. Go and campaign outside the US Embassy. Go and do a protest outside the US Embassy. Go and do it there, and get your voice heard. But all's happened now is that 15 blokes in Scotland have got a bucket load of work they've got to repair, and they're nothing to do with it.
It doesn't help anything. No, it doesn't help anything. And this is coming from someone that very much believes in the power of protest, that very much believes in obviously disrupting the status quo and doing anything you can to sort of push things in the right direction. Vandalizing a third party that has literally nothing to do with what's going on in Gaza and in the Middle East is not the way to do it. All you're doing is, because there's a lot of people kind of on the sidelines that they don't pay that much attention to everything going on in the Middle East. And I mean, even here in the United States, it's a fairly low percentage of people. Except what you are doing is that you're alienating the people that are on the fence. So now they just hate your cause. Like, it doesn't matter what your cause is. Like, yeah, you think that you're increasing visibility into this cause. Except you're not. You're only increasing the negativity towards that cause. And you're not really doing any help. Like, I've seen it here in the United States with a variety of different protests that turn violent. I think that those things that turn violent, the purpose of what's happening just totally goes by the wayside. And you can talk about, I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on here, but you can look to certain people, certain factions that have turned those things violent with the purpose of turning the sort of narrative against you. Like, that's definitely out there too. And I'm particularly talking about Jan 6 and BLM and some of the stuff that happened here in the United States. I'm not going to get into, but I do see a lot of these protesters attacking golf courses. Like, we've seen it with these Just Stop Oil people. We've seen it with the pro-Palestinian protesters, that there's been certain people that sort of took responsibility for it. I just think you're going about it the wrong way, honestly. Like, I just don't think that negatively impacting a golf course and like they have to spend time, like, there's real people you're actually impacting. It's not just this like symbolic thing. You're impacting the golfers, you're impacting the maintenance team, you're impacting, all sorts of stuff related to the actual golf. And it's like, you're not actually changing anything. Yeah, this has been like a story for like 24 hours, but eventually things are going to get repaired. People are going to get back on the course. The vandalism is going to go away, and all you're going to have are a bunch of golfers. And some of these are very influential people, mind you, that are going to be against your cause now. So I just think that it's a bad look. I've gotten into it with a few people online about this. I understand the want and need to sort of protest and do it in a variety of ways. I just think that this is not the way to go. And I don't just say that as a golfer. I say that as someone that has sort of spent a lot of time working for nonprofits and all that stuff. And it's like, there are certain ways you have to go about if you really want to make change. This is not the way.
Well, look, let's call into it there. It is what it is, and I just feel sorry for the guys that got to tidy it all up. That's kind of more where I am on it.
Yeah, and I will say really quickly, I know Donald Trump tends to drive people crazy. Like, it's a lot of people in my mentions every day that have Trump derangement syndrome at a extreme level. Look, my Even my dad, shout out to my dad, has had TDS that I've kind of talked him off the ledge, and I think now he's a little bit more neutral. He doesn't watch CNN or MSNBC anymore, and now all of a sudden he's not believing those narratives anymore. Shocker, because the media does drive a lot of this stuff. I just want people to think, because obviously I've been on this like anti-media thing for a while. I just want people to think about how your opinion is shaped and influenced, and why you get emotional the way you do about various topics. Is it because of things you actually know? Is it because of things you actually experienced? Or is it because you're being influenced in a particular way by people that you have that have gained your trust over the course of time? People need to think more about this stuff. And it's something that I've only scratched the surface on these media narratives. Like I've touched on it in golf. I talk about it every single podcast, every single day on social media for the most part. And I just want people to think about this stuff a little deeper and think about why you get upset the way you do. And if you think about it and you start turning off some of the media that has had a huge influence on you, I have a feeling that you're going to change your opinion going forward.
We've got way too deep. I just want to talk about a bit of grass being dug up, and you and I are going all into it. Right. On that note,
I can't help it. It's an important message.
I know. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say goodbye. I support no political parties currently, either domestic or foreign. So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye, everybody. Jay, I shot a dreadful 10 over today. Played like a drain. Now I got 10 over. I'll never understand. But I broke an 84 out of my last 5 rounds. But how I got 10 over today, I will never understand. I played like a drain. Do you ever do that? You're crap all day, but you still scratch out half a score out.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about golf. Like there's going to be ebbs and flows to everything. Look, it's early in the season, so I don't want you to beat yourself too much about a bad score here and there. You just have to keep at it. I mean, Phil Mickelson's a great examples of all that. Last year, Hong Kong, first round, he shot 10 over par 80. And here we are a year later, he's finishing third, shooting 64 in the final round. So you just have to every single time you get out on the golf course, you just have to analyze what's going wrong, what's going right. Really sort of think about that. Well, that means you need to get back on the range and you need to figure that out for sure.
I'm joking.
Well, you got some new equipment too. It's going to take a little bit of time.
My 10 over had 3 doubles in it. It's just one of those. 10 over had 3 doubles in it. Take those out. Whereas last week I shot 5 over, 6 over on the Saturday and the Sunday. The week before that I shot 7 over and a 7 over the week before that. And I've been playing really good golf. My lessons with Tom Motley have gone really well. My new gear from Ping. Shout out to Ping for sponsoring me. Thank you so much. The gear's great. But yeah, I just need to grind a bit of consistency in there. And if any footwear sponsors are out there that want to sponsor you or I, be great. I need some new boots, and it'd be nice to get them for free.
Yeah. I do, since you shout out Ping, I do want to shout out Ping too, just their drivers. I'm going to go for a driver fitting pretty soon. I never thought I would do this. I got to shout out Titleist. Titleist Vokey wedges have completely reshaped and revamped my short game. I feel like a new man. I'm finally able to hit some of the shots that I haven't totally gone from my repertoire the last 10 years, and all of a sudden I'm hitting these low spinners. I'm hitting high, and my bunker play has improved. Just my consistency and anything inside
the two best wedge manufacturers for me are Vokey and Ping SM159s and the Vokey SM10s they on.
Yeah, SM10s. Yeah, I got custom fit for the SM10s, and I gotta say, it's one thing to make good equipment. I used to try to do all the research on my own and pick the right things, and it's hit and miss. Everybody really does need to, if you really want to dial in one part of your game. Honestly, I think short game fittings might even be more important than long game fittings. I really feel that way now, because there's all these little subtleties with grinds and the bounces and the lofts.
I got 4 wedges. I got 4 wedges with 3 different grinds. Yeah, it matters.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Really
and
matters.
then you also have to know situationally when to use those things. I'm not really hitting my 60 for full shots because it's not really designed for that. It's designed for more half wedges and bunker shots and all that stuff. And you really need to sort of think it through. And once you start getting into the fitting and start thinking through the process, all of a sudden, there's a very good chance you're going to unlock something in your game like I did, whether it be a weighting thing in your clubs and all this stuff. All of a sudden, my consistency just clicked, and I've started shooting some really good scores, because that's always been the thing that's held me back. And it's something that prevents you from making big numbers if you're able to recover from a bad shot. Like, that's, even the pros struggle with that. And it's something that is really, really important that everybody, if I were to give anybody some advice out there that's listening to this, short game, like, everything starts with the short game, and you gotta build your bag from the green going back to the tee, including picking the right ball, including your wedges, your grinds, your putter, all that stuff. It just changes everything, and it feeds into the rest of your bag. So highly recommend going for a short game fitting now that we're sort of moving into golf season here in the United States and in the UK as well.
Right. Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, goodbye. Have a lovely week, and we will see you soon. Take care.